Hi everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel and another paper crafting video tutorial. Today we are going to be creating some adorable die cut Valentine's cards with brand new Pretty Pink Posh products. I've got 3 cards to share with you today, and all of them are very die cut heavy, and almost everything on these cards is from the new release with the exception of a few previously released products. We're going to start with the new fox holder die, and we're going to assemble the adorable little fox here onto the XOXO pierced plate background. I've die cut my fox from a couple of different colors of cardstock, and we're going to use some inks to add some shading around the edges of the die cut to give him some depth and dimension. In fact, I will be using ink throughout all 3 of my cards today to give all of these pieces lots of depth and dimension, and it really helps elevate the design a lot. The other thing we're going to be doing today is creating 3 different backgrounds, but yet all very similar. I've die cut my fox from some Caramel Simon Says stamp cardstock, and then the layering pieces are from some Alabaster Spellbinders cardstock. Ivory is also a good option here. Around the cream pieces, I am going to go around the edges with whatever is left from the nutmeg ink on my blending tool, just to add a bit of shading. Then we're going to assemble those pieces on top of the base of the fox. Now the fox is the latest in the holder dies from Pretty Pink Posh. You might remember the ghost holder from last fall and Halloween, and you can interchange the different elements for your cute critter or ghost to be holding. I'm adding the layering pieces for the insides of the ears here. These were die cut from some Barely Peach cardstock, and then the dark pieces for the nose and mouth are from some ground coffee. The little stomach piece, I am again going around the edges with whatever's left on my nutmeg blending tool, and then we're going to glue it down in place. The arms are die cut so that they can hold on to something. So we're going to place his tummy piece here, but then we're going to take from the add-ons, the Valentine Holder Editions add-ons, we're going to take a basket and some hearts, and we're going to have our fox holding that. Now don't forget the tip of the tail, and I also took a bow from the Valentine Holder Editions set to add to the top of her head. I'm going to take some pastel pink ink and a small round blending tool from Spellbinders, and we're going to pinken our fox's cheeks. I love how pink rounded cheeks give so much character to the finished critter shapes and designs. Instead of using the coordinating die for the eyes on my fox, I'm going to take some Pretty Pink Posh Onyx Pearls, and we're going to replace the eyes with the pearls instead. They're going to be nice and dimensional and look amazing. The bow we're going to tack here right on the top of our sweet little fox's head, and I love it so, so much. In the center of the bow, we're going to take some of the new Valentine strawberry mix here, and we're going to take one of the hearts from this clay mix and add it to the center. I tried out a couple of different options, but settled on the white heart as I felt like that looked the nicest for the design. Using an embellishment wand, I'm going to pick up my heart and pop it right there in the center. Well, maybe. That heart and I were not getting along too well. And a little bit or some eyes, and our fox is going to be all finished. Now I am using the glue press to add those dabs of glue, and I'm going to let this sit and completely dry, but I will come back here in a little bit and give her some eyelashes. Now, while we're waiting for all of those glue pieces to dry on the fox, we're going to put glossy accents on her nose, and we're going to take the basket and we're going to fill it with some hearts and place it in her arms. I've taken the hearts and the basket from the Valentine holder at Additions Dies add-on, and we're going to fill it up. There's also a present, other little heart designs. There's so many different things that you can have the fox hold. I absolutely love how versatile this is. Today for my pink colors, I am kind of mixing and matching a lot of different reds and pinks. I have the crimson red from Spellbinders. We have the Peony from Hero Arts. We also have the Dahlia color from Spellbinders and Barely Peach as well. So really kind of mixing and matching my reds and pinks for a really fun color combination. And here is our cute fox holding her basket. And I'm coming in a little bit later with a fine tip black pen and adding her eyelashes. Now we're ready to start assembling the rest of this card, starting with the word hugs. This is from the Fox Holder die set. You could use any sentiment you want here, or even sentiments from those Valentine Holder Editions set if you want to. I die cut my word hugs from some of the brushed gold cardstock from Spellbinders, but I felt like I've laid everything out off camera. And when I did that, I felt like I liked the size, the scale, the design, but the hugs was getting lost. So we are going to die cut the word hugs again from ground coffee and offset it slightly and layer the brushed gold onto that dark chocolate, and it's going to set it apart. With my pierced XO background, I am taking some barn door Distress Spritz, and instead of spraying it, I'm just taking the little nozzle out and using that to tap some spatter all over my background. Then I'm going to kind of look at my design, figure out where I want my fox to go, and I think we can go ahead and attach her right to our card. For this particular design, we are going to have a floral arrangement down below as well as up above. Now, full disclosure, I do think I added her a tad too high, but I just went with it. Also from the Valentine Holder Editions, I am die cutting a bunch of flowers and leaves and hearts. We're going to go through and add some inking to our pieces to give them that same shading so everything is nice and cohesive. Again, we've got the Dahlia, Crimson, Peony cardstock colors, and even a little bit of the Barely Peach. For the Barely Peach, I'm only going around the very edges of my floral with my blending tool, and I am using the Simon Says Stamp ink color in the color, well, that is a good question. Maybe Cranberry, I think. I really like this color. Yes, it is Cranberry. Now for the hearts, red just does not show up. So what I like to do anytime I am using something deep and dark and red is usually use a black or a brown. In this case, we're going to use allspice to go around the edges to deepen and darken those hearts. It looks incredible. Now this will fade just a little bit. This is when it is wet, and of course the dye ink will fade out and be a little more muted in the finished card, but this still allows you to get that wonderful shading that you can actually see. For the leaves, I'm going to take some Kale ink and a small blending tool, and we're going to add some shading to our leaves. The small blending tool allows us a little more control for the small area. The leaves were die cut from PESTO Hero Arts cardstock, and I think they're going to be the perfect color to finish off our design. Now that we have all our components, we're ready to put it all together. We've already adhered our fox right to our background, so now it's time to add our floral arrangement that she's standing in. Now, full disclosure, and I'm sure you noticed, I smeared my red spritz because I did not wait for it to completely dry before I started assembling my die cuts, and I put my hand right in it. Instead of getting upset and starting all over, which I definitely could have done if I wanted to, I decided to roll with it, and I'm simply going to disguise the worst of it with the dies that I'm adhering. A lot of it's going to get covered up, and along the edge, I decided it's totally fine. But I did want to mention that I did that because sometimes it does happen. Generally, I like to do my spritzing before I would have been doing the rest of my die cutting or my ink blending, etc. That gives the background plenty of time to dry. For my remaining 2 cards, they both will feature the barn door distress spritz as well, and I did give them plenty of time to dry before assembling my die cuts. Now for the leaves, I love the little stitched line in the center. And so what I like to do is fold my leaf just really gently, not really harsh, but that gives the leaf a little bit of dimension and movement on the card. In my floral arrangement, I'm also tucking lots of hearts, and I love how this looks. It's absolutely adorable and turning out so cute. Off camera, I'm going to assemble the rest of the florals up above my fox's head. Now I'm taking some Spellbinders Opal Gems, and I am going to place these in the center of the florals in a couple of areas just for a little added sparkle and interest. I love the glossy finish on our fox's nose as well. Anything you can do to make the fox's, or any critter for that matter's, face really shine definitely helps with the cute factor. And I lost that pearl, so I guess we'll just grab another one. I like to use the tip of my piercing tool to help pick those up and pop them in place. You can also see that I've added the word hugs right there through the florals along the bottom. So cute. Oh, and I have an escaping heart. Now I do feel like the right side up above is a little light, and so I will add a heart and an additional leaf to that side. We're also going to go through and take a white Jelly Roll pen and add some little white highlights all throughout the design. This is really going to finish off the card beautifully. I love those little pops of white all along the die cuts. For our next card, we're going to take the Diamond Grid Stencil with our cranberry ink, and over the Barely Peach Spellbinders cardstock, we are lightly going to ink blend in the center of this panel. I'm not going quite all the way out to the edge, but instead concentrating the color in the center of the design, leaving those edges to kind of fade out, if you will. Once I have that inked, I'm going to place my background into my spatter box, leaving my stencil in place, and I'm going to shake up my barn door distress spritz, and again I'm going to remove that nozzle and just tap from the little applicator there inside all over. Then I'm going to remove my stencil, lay my background down to completely dry, and I'm going to go wash everything. For this card, we're going to be creating a bucket filled with cake pops. Absolutely so cute. Now we are going to be using the previously released candy bucket from Pretty Pink Posh. So the candy bucket came out during Halloween, and now there are some candy bucket Valentine's add-ons plus these cake pops. We're kind of mixing and matching. In addition, from the Valentine mug add-ons from, I believe, last year, I might be wrong about that. We're going to take the chocolate covered strawberry and tuck that down near the bottom of the bucket. But first, we want to build these cake pops. One of the things I love best about these cake pops is that they are nice and substantial. Just like the previous card, I will be adding shading to all of my die cuts to really make them stand out. For the cake pops, there's all kinds of adorable sprinkles that you can use and add to your design. So for the heart cake pop, I've got a bunch of little hearts that I like, heart sprinkles that I'm adding to the frosting on the cake pop itself. Then we're going to glue it to the solid heart, add it to the cake pop stick, and add a bow. All of the pieces you need to build the most adorable cake pops are included in this set. The cardstock colors I'm using are going to be the same throughout all of my designs. I decided to keep it really simple and uniform throughout. There's lots of little bows scattered throughout the January 2025 release that you can use to adorn critters' heads, buckets, cake pops, and other components in your design. Again, in the center of the bow, I'm adding one of those little clay hearts. I'm going to continue to assemble all of these cake pop pieces and components before we kind of pull the entire thing together. Now, my bucket was die cut from some of the brushed gold Spellbinders cardstock, and we will be stamping and embossing a sentiment from one of the new stamp sets in the Pretty Pink Posh released called Valentine Greetings. I do want to make mention of a mistake or an error that I saw and that I will have to fix off camera, and it is nothing major. But I did notice that for my cake pop with the X's, which is going to be the red frosted cake pop, I don't know that we've assembled it yet. We're getting ready to right now. I was doing the XOXO little sprinkles confetti on this cake pop. And in the finished card, I of course see that there are only X's, no O's. I did die cut them and I simply forgot to attach or adhere them to the design. So when I'm doing all of these little X's, I will have to go back and add those here once the video is finished. I didn't notice it at the time of photography and before I started editing, so you know, it is what it is, and it's actually okay the way it is, but I did want to make mention of it. I think this strawberry is the perfect addition, and in fact, I love it so much that you are going to see it on my third and final card today. I'm again using my same blending brushes and colors to add color to all of the components. From the Valentine holder add-ons, I pulled another one of those florals plus the leaves. And then from the Valentine mug additions from a previous release from Pretty Pink Posh, I am taking the chocolate covered strawberry. All of the good sugary Valentine's treats are going to be represented in this card. Now, the great thing about this candy bucket is that it can be made into a shaker. However, today I decided to keep it more as a design element filled with all of the Valentine's goodies. On this brushed gold cardstock from Spellbinders, I am stamping a greeting from the Valentine Greetings stamp set that says, "You're a sweetheart." Instead of white embossing powder, which I felt like didn't go with the rest of my design, and I thought ivory would go better, I'm going to take this cream embossing powder from Simon Says Stamp, and I am embossing on that brushed gold with this ivory colored embossing powder. It ends up perfect, and I love how it looks. If you're ever looking for an embossing powder that is not pure white, I highly recommend this beautiful off-white embossing powder from Simon Says Stamp. Now we're going to put some foam on the back of our bucket and we're going to start filling it up. Now I am going to speed up the video for the assembly portion. I am leaving the assembly in the video, but I did want to speed it up just to save some time. Often when you're working with lots of fussy little pieces, whether they are die cut or stamped, that can be rather time consuming, and I did find that to be the case with this particular card. There's a lot of adjusting and seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, moving parts and pieces around, basically just a lot of moving parts. Once I am happy with the majority of the layout, I'm going to start gluing everything down and together using a combination of liquid glue and foam adhesive. I'm putting some of the cake pops in front of the handle of the bucket and some back behind. We're also going to tuck some die cut hearts into the bucket as well to give it a very full look. I am adding some additional sprinkles to one of my cake pops. I felt like it needed just a little something, and these sprinkles are going to be perfect. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to go ahead and look at my design and start filling the rest of this bucket. Now notice how I am placing this heart down in the bucket, but slightly in front of the handle. All of these things just add interest to the design. I think this looks really good. We do need to layer maybe a couple more hearts down here in front. Let's glue these two together, and I think that's going to be great. One additional component that I will add to this is a small pink bow. Around the top of my bucket here, I am wrapping some red Lawn Fawn twine several times, and I'm going to tie it into a little bow. I felt like we needed some sort of an embellishment here. Any kind of little ribbon or twine is going to be a super cute addition to your Valentine's treat bucket. Okay, so basically it is just finishing details now. I love the simple stenciled diamond background here for this card. Most of this card is taken up with the large die cut focal point. I love to have a little bit of something in the background though, and not just have a plain background, and not even just have a plain spattered background. The light stenciling and then the little bit of spatter definitely adds to the interest without taking away from the design itself. We're going to take those same opal gems and add those to the center of our floral. Take a white Jelly Roll pen and add a few highlights. And that is going to be it for our candy bucket card, or at least one of our candy bucket cards. We do have one more coming up where we're really going to utilize the add-ons for that bucket. For our third and final card today, we are going to take another new stencil set from the release. This is the Layered Heart Sprinkles set from Pretty Pink Posh, and using the heart stencil first and that cranberry colored of ink, we're going to ink the hearts all over the Barely Peach background. Once I'm happy with this, we're going to take the second part of the layering stencil, and we are going to use the same blending brush in a very light hand, and we're going to add the sprinkles. This is going to give us a very tone-on-tone, very soft background. Instead of doing another color or even a paste or something, I often like to do this because you can get some really amazing looks with a single color of ink. You'll notice that I am not inking up my tool and instead just going in with my blending brush, using a consistent but lighter hand with this application. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to remove my stencil, and that looks amazing. We are going to go around the edges though with our blending tool now just to soften it a bit. This is going to end up kind of coloring our cardstock into this beautiful soft pink color. Once I'm happy with that, I am going to go in with my XOXO from the Valentine's Greeting Stamp Set in the cranberry ink, and using first and second generation stamping, we're going to stamp our XO all over this background. This is going to add a little bit of additional added interest to the design. Then we're going to go in with our Barn Door Distress Spritz Spray. You make sure it's shook up really, really well, and then we're going to take that little applicator or spray nozzle out again and just tap on our spatter. We're going to let that sit and completely dry. While drying, I'm going to go in and add some color to our bucket. So we are going to make the adorable little dog Valentine bucket here, and I have die cut the bucket itself from Alabaster Cardstock, from Spellbinders, ground coffee from Lawn Fawn, and a lighter brown color as well that I cannot remember the name of at the moment, but it is listed down in the description below the video here on YouTube. From the ground coffee layer, I did just trim off the top of the bucket and place it on the alabaster lightly inked section, and then we're adding the ears on either side. We're going to add the nose and the mouth plus the little patch for the eye. Much like the fox card, we are not going to use the circle dies for the eyes on this design, but instead replace those with some of the onyx pearls. I love that there's a layering piece for the nose if you want to do a different color for that. I opted to do mine out of that same ground coffee, so that nice dark chocolatey brown. My idea for this bucket was, instead of doing a handle, we are instead going to fill this one with a bunch of chocolate covered strawberries and picks that spell out the word love. Super simple, but very cute and effective. First, we want to finish building our dog face, and just like the fox, I want to give our little puppy here some pink cheeks. Using those round blending brushes and the pastel pink ink, I'm just going to go in a round circular motion right where I want the little cheeks to be. Taking those onyx pearls, we're going to find the size that we want, add some dabs of glue, try to make them as even as possible, and then we're going to pop the eyes in place. Again, we're going to wait till the glue is completely dry before adding some little eyelashes to our puppy. I did add glossy accents to the nose of the dog, and then I did make an error in a blender. Luckily, I was able to pull off that piece and set it aside. You can see I made just a giant mess here. It's squished out everywhere, but I was able to kind of save and salvage this design, and thank goodness, because she is going to be cute. I decided to leave out the inking and assembly of the strawberries, since I did that earlier in the video for my previous card. Instead, I'm assembling these adorable little picks using the components from the add-on set. Instead of using the O for the word love, I'm instead going to replace that with one of the heart designs. So I've created little picks for the L, V, and E, and then we're going to ink and layer the components for the heart for the letter O. We're also going to be using a little bow die to make a bow below this. Almost like the little love picks in here could be candy of some sort, or maybe just a decorative element sticking up out of the basket of strawberries. Other fun ideas are you could use some of the candy dies from Pretty Pink Posh and fill your bucket full of adorable Valentine chocolates and candies very easily. I absolutely love that. Go back to your stash, see what other favorites that you have, and you can have all kinds of fun with your favorite products. Now I am going to fill my bucket with, I believe, 6 strawberries. Originally I was going to do 5, and then as I was looking at it and I assembled it, I decided I wasn't super thrilled with my assembly. Now my best advice for assembly is to go slow. You'll notice go slow, but also go quick enough that the glue doesn't dry. So I am starting by adding a little glue to strawberries and then placing the bucket on top. I haven't assembled, or pardon me, I haven't adhered anything to the card yet. I'm doing this very intentionally because I want to have the picks stuck down into the basket. Like some of them are in front of the strawberries, some of them are in between strawberries, etc. And I also want all of my strawberries to be going this way and that. Now, I said originally I was only going to have 5 strawberries in my basket. When I get to the assembly portion of this, I realized that I wasn't thrilled with the left side of my basket. It left the L in and the heart little picks kind of not very secure. I also stuck my finger in the glossy accents on the nose. I just could not catch a break, you guys. So I popped the nose off, and we're just going to come back to that here in a little bit and fix it. Once I have my picks in place, and you can see it looks cute, but that left side is a little light on the strawberries and the stability. I did die cut 1 additional strawberry because I'm going to take the one that I had planned to stick outside of the bucket, and we're going to place it in the little candy bucket and place the other one down below. Now, if you're wondering why this background doesn't have any of the XOXO on it, yes, I didn't think of it till later. And I was not able to stamp the words without popping off all of my components. So taking a little undo off camera, I did pop the candy bucket and strawberries off, stamped my sentiments, and then came back and put everything back in place. This adding that extra strawberry does allow me to glue down the L and the heart picks very easily. Add in some fun little eyelashes for our sweet puppy bucket. Add in another nose and add our glossy accents and allow it to completely dry, and that will be perfect. I'm just cleaning up a little bit of that liquid glue that might have squeezed out around the edges. I always try to clean that up when possible. And the strawberry sitting outside the bucket gives it a little bit of that off-kilter look that I love. Now, I did think that the letters in the bucket disappeared just a little bit, so I am going over them with glossy accents as well as the small heart in the middle of the heart pick and the nose, and I'm going to allow that to completely dry before adhering each of these panels to white card bases, either top fold or side fold, and that is going to be it. And here is a look at all 3 finished cards. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these 3 Valentine's die cut cards featuring Pretty Pink Posh supplies. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for joining me today for another paper crafting tutorial. I love being able to share with this incredible community of crafters. I want to give a huge shout out and special thank you to my amazing Patreon members. If you're interested in joining Patreon, please click the link in the description underneath the video here on YouTube. Patreon is a private community where you can support more of what I do. There is exclusive content, information, and behind-the-scenes content. Top-tier members will receive a handmade birthday card during your birthday month, access to D-Stash, and monthly exclusive lives, plus so much more. We would love to have you join our growing community.